Welcome to the Inspiring Heights podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Kaiser, and I am so excited to be here with you today. Inspiring Heights exists to walk alongside you as we learn to create healthy rhythms, flourish in our faith, and be inspired where our feet are. We're honored that you're with us today. We can't wait. Let's get started. The hosting season is finally among us. Backyard barbecues, cornhole, and fire pits. Finally, the time has come. As hubby and I have gotten settled into our home and our marriage, we've tried to be really intentional in making space to invite others into our home. It's really pretty amazing the connection that can happen around a dinner table. And y'all, you do not know me until you have seen me play the game Pit. I'm just saying. But as we think about hospitality, I think it's a mixture of both some heart things and some practical things. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about both. But let's start on the heart side. The first thing I want to say is let it go. Can we be honest for a minute in saying that hospitality in America today feels like nothing shy of a wedding feast if we let it? 5 kinds of sparkling water, 3 dessert options, 7-course meal for the next door neighbor, and we present it all as if it was just a breeze to whip up this afternoon quick. My friends who spend any amount of time at my house, you know, you're laughing at me a little bit right now because I can tend to lean this way sometimes. But here's the thing. When hospitality is more about putting on a show than it is sharing in community around the table, our hearts are really just missing the point. I think of the story of Jesus with Mary and Martha that's found in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. It says, "Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me.' But the Lord answered her, 'Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is not necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her.'" I want my heart to be like Mary's heart, who chooses presence over perfect presentation. And here's the thing. If we're not going to let people in our home until perfection is achieved in our home, we're not going to open that front door very often. And then we're just really missing out. We're missing out on the opportunity to build community. And I know I'm really packing a hard punch here. And I want you to know that I'm talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to you. But we have to learn to let that strive for our perfection in our homes before we open the front door. We have to learn to let it go. It's okay to do a quick clean of your house. It's okay that you want your home to feel welcoming and cozy. And it's even okay to want to serve a beautiful meal to your friends. At the end of the day, what matters is the posture of our hearts, not the cleanliness of our homes. Okay, point number 2, open the door more often. Hear me when I say, I'm not suggesting that you host multiple people in your home several times a week during the height of your busy season. We've talked about this before, right? In our seasons episode about naming your season, knowing your season. So do that. Know your season. Make good choices. But now that we have that worked out, I want to talk to you about what I really mean. It's easy to dismiss our call of hospitality, I think. We really see hospitality exemplified all over the Bible, the welcoming of people into homes, both strangers and friends. But yet somehow in our lives, we really neglect it. We use excuses like, I'll do it later, or I'm too busy, or I'm just not really the hospitable type. But I think there's this big question we still need to ask ourselves. What are we missing out on? When we only see our friends on Sunday morning, how do we know what's really going on in their lives? How do we ever get past the small talk that fills our conversations, but yet leaves our hearts feeling really empty? When do we get to the iron sharpens iron part? While I'm not suggesting that a dinner party is the end-all be-all solution to all of the world's most challenging issues, I am saying walls can be torn down, friendships can be created or restored, and life-changing ideas can and do happen around the dinner table. And finally, the third part of the heart. Do it scared. Opening the front door to friends or people you hope leave as friends can be terrifying. Do you remember in Seventh Heaven? Well, you might not have watched Seventh Heaven. I loved that show growing up, although my mom didn't really like it that much, so she might be disappointed that I'm talking about it on the podcast. But I love that show. And whenever someone would ring the doorbell or knock on the front door, anyone in the family would say, "It's always open." And I think about that sometimes when I think about hospitality, because not everyone grew up with that "the door is always open" kind of situation, right? So taking the first step is unknown. What if they don't leave as friends? What if they see too much of my most vulnerable self and they don't love me anymore? What if they think I'm a slob or that I have too much stuff? Here's the thing, friends. It could all happen. I can't sit here and tell you that it couldn't. But I think it's only fair if we're going to play the what if game that we have to do it both ways. So what if we really hit it off and we find deep friendship? What if they love me more because they know me in an entirely new way, having been in my home? What if they find freedom in the way that I let go of perfection so that I can say yes to welcoming them? You're right. We don't know what the outcome will be. But if you consider the most positive aspects of the what if cycle, it seems worth a shot. All right. I'll get off my soapbox. Let's talk about some of the practical aspects of hospitality. Some would tell you you should never make anything that you have never tried before. In fact, you really should only make the things you've won a blue ribbon at the county fair. But can I tell you a secret? It's not true. It's not true. I'm not sure when we told ourselves that it had to be that way, but it doesn't. And to be honest, I often experiment with new recipes when company is coming over. We don't make chocolate cake at our house that often. So when friends are coming, it's a really good excuse for me to pull out the KitchenAid mixer and have some fun. Go to town. But seriously, part of having a hospitable spirit is letting down the walls of perfection that we hold ourselves to when our friends come over. So consider starting here. Be spontaneous. Put the macadamia nuts in the chocolate chip cookies, even if you never have before. I promise you, it'll all work out okay. I will say I have one caveat to this for those of you who are shaking your head at me right now. I have one caveat. I cook new things that I have a pretty good idea will work out. Now, here's the deal. I've spent some time in the kitchen. I'm not Julia Childs, but I know how to make a casserole. Basically, I know that if I add meat and cheese and corn to a casserole dish, no matter what else goes in there, it's really bound to taste good when it comes out of the oven. And honestly, if it doesn't, you add some cottage cheese and you call it a day. But with that said, I wouldn't be at all comfortable pulling out the art of French cooking and making a meat mold jello thing for supper. Because first of all, gross. And second, I'm not really experienced in that cuisine. So I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it should smell like. It's a big picture concept. Cook what you want, try new things, and to reduce stress, stick to cuisine that you are at least somewhat familiar with. Number 2, plan ahead. You had to have seen this coming, right? By planning ahead, I mean, yes, of course, it's good practice to think about what you're going to feed the people coming into your home. And it's also good to make sure that you have that stuff on hand. But I didn't need to tell you that. You already knew it. That's common sense. But here's what I'm talking about. If you're going to be hosting multiple dinner parties, campfire nights, backyard barbecues, whatever that it is, consider what you can buy in bulk and keep on hand. It's really I'm going to make a good choice now that is bound to save me time and mental energy later kind of thing. So I'll tell you a story. My husband and I have been talking about getting a fire pit at our house because your girls are really obsessed with a good smell of a campfire. In my brain, a fire pit equals friends and friends equal food. So we really just needed to think through all the logistics of that. So we're on our way home from church on Sunday, and I say to Ben, I think we should make an ice cream bar the dessert of the summer. Like, let's get some stuff to keep on hand so that when people come over for dinner, there's always a dessert option that doesn't require baking. I'll be honest with you, that hurts my heart to say a little bit because I really love to bake. It is hands down my favorite thing to do in the kitchen. But baking is just not super feasible in this season for us with our schedule. And so I would rather choose friends at our home more often than feeling obligated to have a baked dessert and thereby limiting the number of fire pit nights that we choose to do. So what is that thing for you? The one thing that will make hosting feel easier and more doable? The meal, the drinks, where you'll sit, plan ahead, buy in bulk, and then go make some memories. All right, my third and final point, buy the paper plates. Here's the deal. I don't really like to tell you what you should do around here. You get to choose. 7-course meals or hot dogs roasted by your guests over the campfire. Water from the tap, sparkling water from France. Your grandma's fine china or paper plates. But here's my pitch. Name the thing that stresses you out and makes you not want to open the front door when your friends knock. Maybe it isn't the cutlery that you plan to use, but maybe it's the fear that your house is going to smell like your puppies or that your guests are going to be allergic to something that you make. Whatever it is, name it. Call it into the light, sister. We often stress about things consistently and repeatedly without just naming it. When we name it, we can actually do something about it. It's a little like sin that way, but we'll save that conversation for another day. If it's doing the dishes or the fact that your plates that you use on the daily are chipped and you don't want someone to cut off a finger, you're going to decide to use paper plates. If you have little furry children running around and your house smells like dogs, because it does, because that's what happens when you have little furry children, choose an essential oil for your diffuser or a candle that you love and start it up before your friends get there. If you are in constant fear that your guests won't like or are allergic to food that you're making, the easy solution? Ask before they get there. I do this all the time. When I have new friends coming over to our house that I have never cooked for before, I ask the questions. Do you and your family have allergies? Or is there food you just really don't like? That way, I don't smother the burgers in cheese when my friends are allergic to the dairy. Those solutions may seem silly because they're so simple, but the point here is we all have the things that stress us out. And by having self-awareness as to what those things are, we can either, that's right, let them go, or find a solution that works over and over and over again. And this can free up so much emotional and physical energy for inviting people to sit around the table with us. Okay, friends, to recap quick, we're going to let go of the walls of perfection that keep us from opening the door. We're going to invite people in more often, and we're going to do it even if we're scared. And then we're going to make fun meals that we maybe have never made before. We're going to plan ahead and buy in bulk if we can. And we're going to use the paper plates. I hope that this episode has been helpful and encouraging and inspiring to you. Like I said, hospitality is both a head thing and a heart thing. And I think we have to really look at both the practical side of it and the emotional side of it and get our head really wrapped around it so that we are more willing to open that front door and build genuine community around the dinner table. Okay, friends, I want to take a second to tell you what has been inspiring me this week. I just started reading the book, The Baxters, the prequel by Karen Kingsbury, and I am a huge Karen Kingsbury fan. I love her. I love her writing, and I get super into her books. And I've been reading a couple of different books before bed, hit or miss, and I have to be honest, while I have read some really good books like The Home Ed and I'm reading The Lazy Genius Kitchen and good books, I sometimes just need a really good fiction book that I'm really into that's like page turning for me to desire to give up a little bit of sleep to read before bed. But it's a little bit of a cycle because I know if I read before bed, I'll sleep better. But sometimes I'm just so tired. So it's good to have a book that makes me want to get in bed and read. So I've just been inspired this week to take some extra time to read before bed and just dive into a super good book. Friends, thank you so much for being here today. It means the world to us. Hey, you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram at Inspiring Heights. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, go ahead and leave us a review. This helps for new listeners who haven't heard the podcast to kind of get a feel for what the show is like before they even hit play. If you have friends who aren't yet subscribers, share this with them if this is something you think that would be helpful and encouraging to them. Okay, friends, until next time, take a deep breath and be inspired where your feet are. Bye for now.